All right. Thank you. We'll start with the karakia. Right. Whakataka tahau ki te uru, whakataka tahau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi ake ana te ātākura, teo, he huka, he hauhau, tihei, mauri ora. Thank you very much. Right. Declare the meeting open. Do we have any apologies? No apologies? Do we have anybody online? Everybody's present? Good. All right. I'll move that the apologies be... Oh, we don't have to do, of course we don't, no. I have no particular announcements to make. And does anybody have any conflicts of interest to declare? None? All right. Turn to the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of December. I'll move that those minutes be received as an accurate record of the meeting. Is there a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor. I put that motion. All those in... Oh, I'm going to have to do that just to exercise our vote. Getting used to this. It is carried. All right. No requests for public participation, and I will now adjourn this meeting, and we will... Oh, sorry, declare that there are no items not on the agenda. Declaring a negative, all right. Okay. So we'll now adjourn this meeting, and we will rapidly convert ourselves into the Grants Committee. I will vacate my seat. And Councillor Young will take over. I'll sit over there.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Grants meeting, Grants Subcommittee meeting. Please let me know, or Democracy Services, if you intend to leave the meeting. And morning tea will be at 10:30 a.m. As we just opened council with the karakia, we'll move straight on to apologies, 1.2 apologies. Do I have any apologies? Do you have to put the motion if there are no apologies? No. Okay. Okay, I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest that they may have in relation to the items on the agenda. And as this is the first meeting of the Grants Committee, there are no minutes to confirm. And here's my favourite bit. We are not going to have a double negative. I hate double negatives. All items are on the agenda. Major triumph for me. Right. In order to hear everyone who requested to speak at public participation, all speakers will have 5 minutes, which includes any time that you may wish to leave for questions. From councillors, should you so wish, please feel free to speak either at the lectern or at the table. I will be enforcing the 5 minutes because I like meetings to be short, and that includes short speeches, councillors. Stu Day, welcome to the meeting. So you're speaking on behalf of Ghost Divers New Zealand?
Correct, yeah. Hi, I'm Stuart. Thank you for having me, everybody. I realise I don't have a lot of time, so I'll make it quick. Ghost Diving New Zealand, we've been and seen you guys in the past. Essentially what we are is a voluntary trust, a charitable trust, but we're voluntary. We've been operating for about 10 years, and we're a group of scuba divers, free divers, kayakers and shore crew that get in the water around Wellington Harbour and haul out rubbish, essentially. In the last 12 months, we've hauled nearly 5,000 kilos of rubbish out of the Wellington Harbour and various other places that we've been able to travel to, but mainly predominantly in Wellington. And there's still a lot of work to be done. As I said before, we've also had other groups that we deal with. There's various groups shore-based that pick up rubbish around the shore that we've helped out as well, so those figures are in there. And we also, in the last 12 months, had both the Australian and the United States Navy come into Wellington, as you probably know, and we did some cleanups with them as well, so that's part of those figures too. The work that we've done has only really been possible because of funding by groups like yourselves. The funding is so important because the gear that we have, the work that we do is very, very hard on the gear that we have, so there's quite a large maintenance aspect associated with that. We have to have all of our tanks and regulators serviced every single year, and there's also just the general wear and tear on the other gear that we have in place. But also being around a salty environment, we have the salt gets into the metals of things like tables and bungee cords and all those other types of items that you'd imagine that we use. As far as what we've done with the funding that you guys have given us in the past, we did put through an outline of what we spent it all on, which was what we applied for last year, but then again what we're applying for this year. But some of the things are very similar. So we do a lot of training with our divers, which involves utilising the Kilburnie pool, which is a higher cost, etc. We do community engagement nights to kind of outline to the community who we are and what we do and try and build that brand a little bit. And then again, as I said before, there's the tank fills and the servicing and maintenance and those aspects. Really what I'm here to say, I guess, is that this ship doesn't sail itself, and through the support that we've had from yourselves, we're able to do the work that we do, and the results speak for themselves. We keep very good records of the data, how many animals we save, how many animals we return to the ocean, how much rubbish comes out, the types of rubbish, glass bottles versus tyres versus e-scooters versus you name it. If it's in there, we haul it out. So we try to keep those records up to date as much as possible in case we need to come in and see people like yourselves to say, and who want to ask us, well, what have you done? You know, well, show us the results of what we've provided to you, which we can do. So, wow, that's 3 minutes done. 2 minutes for questions, I guess.
Does anyone have any questions? So, Mayor?
Just more comment. Just thank you so much for the work you do. I've seen you guys doing the stuff that you do. I've seen the stuff you haul out of the ocean or the lagoon and various things. So just extraordinarily appreciative of the work that you do and the groups that you coordinate. Thank you. Oh,
no, you're very welcome. And as I say, it's what we do and what we love to do. I'm not a hunter. I don't go and scallops and crayfish. I don't do that. So you gotta find a passion, and this seems to fit with a lot of us.
Stu, I have a question for you. Accepting there are tidal flows, but which areas of the harbour get the most rubbish in them?
Mostly along the waterfront, in the Wharupo Lagoon area. We do an annual harbour clean-up there once a year, coming up usually around March. One of the places that we've seen is really, really bad is the right next to Freiburg Pool, there's the Royal Port Nicholson Yacht Club. One of the oldest yacht clubs in the country. There's a lot of rubbish in there, and we've been hitting that area for I think we've hit it about 9 times in the last 10 years. And the haul of rubbish out of there is getting less, but there's still a lot in there, just bottles, cans, also you name it.
But presumably that's because once it gets in, it can't get out.
Absolutely, and out of sight, out of mind. I mean, often you see those pictures of Wellington, the wonderful picture of Wellington with those beautiful boat sheds, and you hop underneath, and yeah, it tells a different story. But we're seeing a lot more animals coming back to those areas because of the work we're doing, a lot more fish in those spaces, and it is getting cleaner. It is getting cleaner.
So we've got time for just one more question from Councillor Foon.
Thank you. you. Kia ora, Stu, and thank you for the mahi as well. What could we do to not have that rubbish in our moana in the first place?
Most of it's about education, and which is what we really push ourselves for. If people know what the animals are in there, they care more about them. So a lot of it is stuff that just falls in accidentally, and that's fine. But people throwing bottles and cans in, or e-scooters is a classic. We've hauled 157 of those since they started in Wellington. Anyway, we're out of time, and I know you guys are very particular with that. So hey, thanks very much for having us. And all the support. We really couldn't do what we do without you.
Stu, thank you, and thank you to everyone in your organisation. Appreciate it. So next we have Dean Stanley, a very familiar face. Welcome, Dean.
Kia ora tātou, called Dean Stanley Tokoingoa, representing the Boat and Beachwise Trust, and which is housed at Wersa Bay Boating Club in Wellington. I did send through a presentation. I don't know if that's available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, clicker. Brilliant. And excellent. So really just here to update you guys on our plan for the coming year. We're part of a working group with Taranaki Whānui, the Regional Council and the City Council, Earth Sciences NZ, DOC, a group of schools in the eastern suburbs. And we're creating a community-initiated marine management area at Wersa Bay called Te Kahu Moana Ke Kakariki. And the goal is to have this in place by the end of this coming year. We've got a bunch of projects underway down there that we've been working on, primarily with schools, primary and secondary, throughout the eastern suburbs. We've Penguin Hotel, a kelp forest, a Pāua nursery, underwater sculpture trail, and an anemone garden. So we're pretty well underway with the Penguin Hotel. We put that in place when we were last sort of visiting you guys, and since then we've started hosting chicks for the last 2 summers out of that Penguin Hotel. Similarly, the kelp forest, in collaboration with the Kura and Situn, Ngā Mokopuna, and the good folk from Mountains to Sea, they've been seeding a kelp forest and understanding how we can help grow the number of large kelp inside Wellington Harbour. But we've also got 3 projects that we're moving on with this year. First one of those is a Pāua nursery. The girls at Wellington East College have been working on this for 3 years now, and they're at the point where they're starting to seed Pāua across the other reefs outside of the Wersa Bay area. And one of their key recommendations is that we have a no-take zone around the club so that we can use this as a base to seed Pāua through the rest of the area. Another project that we're underway with is an underwater sculpture trail, and this is a reasonably aspirational project. And the goal in this year is to create a design brief, get that out to a bunch of artists, and then select 5 or 6 of those artists who might take their design further in future years. We applied to this particular environment fund, but the recommendation from officers is that we take that onto your arts funding round. So we'll be us putting that in the new year. And another project that we have underway is in the rock pools area there at Wersa Bay, is establishing what we're calling an anemone garden. But essentially it's creating artificial habitat, one, to protect the foreshore a little bit from some pretty significant wave action that's starting to occur around there. But 2, to give an area for young kids to understand what it is to restore the marine environment and track ocean health. We're also working on some enhancements on the land area, and really congratulate the council on Tautau Ki Uta, the Coastal Reserves Management Plan, that getting through the process the last couple of weeks. And we're ready to and starting to work with officers on some enhancements around the bay at Wersa Bay. In terms of what those are, the kids at Rongotai College in Wellington East built this sailing waka, and we're trying to find some space to store it alongside of the pavilion down at Wersa Bay. A ramp to the beach. The dunes have been so successful in their growth that they're almost smothering the pavilion, and also the ramp is well and truly buried, so reinstating that. and in the process reinstating some of the grass area, but at the same time growing the dune further along the beach so it becomes more significant. So we get both reinstatement of grass, but also an extension of the dune. And then in terms of a number, each year we hold one or two, reasonably major events. The Beach Carnival and the Surf Lifesaving Club has some carnivals of their own, where we fill up the whole area with boats and craft and so on. So providing a ramp that protects the dunes, but also makes it easiest for us to use that area in Wersa Bay. Then on the north, around the car park at the yacht club, as these kids get on with their restoration, we're talking about an aquaculture container there for them to grow critters and put them back in the sea. And finally, some po, pare and heke to really celebrate the history that is a key part of Wersa Bay. And our goal in next year is to get the preliminary designs and consenting for all of those projects completed.
Bang on time. Dean, thank you.
I know, ran out of questions.
There is no time for questions, but if you'd like to stay for morning coffee, then councillors who have questions can come and talk to you. Good to see you again. Thank you.
And it's 100 years of sailing at Wersa Bay, and you're all invited to the party at the beginning of end of January, beginning of February, that first weekend in February. So.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Kristen Price online from Toimata Foundation.
Tēnā koutou katoa, e ko Kristen Price aho from Toimata. We're the National Hub for the EnviroSchools program. So on our first slide, just a thank you for the catchment project that we are looking to do next year, and thank you for staff for recommending that project. If I could maybe just have my next slide. So we'll be building on previous work, thank you, connecting school communities with local awa, and we're really confident that as well as great learning for tamariki and rangatahi, this project is going to grow the number of people working to take action around these awa, and like all our mahi, it'll be collaborative and guided by te ao Māori perspectives. So yeah, we're feeling positive about this project. Just a little bit of context about EnviroSchools on my next slide. Many of you will be familiar with the EnviroSchools kaupapa. There are a large and active network in Wellington City. It's a holistic approach to the development of sustainable and resilient communities. Large network nationwide, you can see over 1,600. It's a framework for learning, so it's about creating positive outcomes through things like schools lightening their footprint, through zero waste that goes into the homes of staff and students, rainwater harvesting, active transport, improving food security, celebrating and learning from cultural traditions in their community. So essentially, if you think about Wellington City, that's hundreds of projects and day-to-day actions that are generating, significant and positive shifts. And, acknowledging that it provides fertile ground for other initiatives like the speaker that I was just hearing from. I was hearing the name of a few EnviroSchools when he was speaking. So on to the next slide. Just acknowledging our work with councils, local government are a key part of the success of EnviroSchools nationwide. We work with most of the sector. Acknowledging Wellington being the first region where we had all territorial authorities on board with EnviroSchools, and we've worked with Wellington City since 2004. So I'd really like to acknowledge the support over all those years from both staff and councillors. Also acknowledging that there's a lot of financial pressures facing councils. There's also reform coming. So, our focus is working collaboratively in a changing context with our local government partners. So next slide, please. So our model at the base, so it's a very collaborative co-investment model. Just a bit of background at the base. Toimata, we're funded by central government through the Ministry for the Environment. We provide a range of national hub services, learning resources, professional development, a lot of focus on networking, sharing good practice. We do a bit of research. We're currently undertaking a social return on investment, which we think is an important piece of research at this time, with financial pressures being what they are. It's good to know that the program works and delivers. there are some changes to the role that we've been playing in Wellington, and there could be some questions about that, which, would be later on. But, acknowledging regional council and their regional coordination role, and then at the local delivery level, that's the EnviroSchools facilitators, Chloe and Chandra in Wellington City, who are very skilled, do a lot of amazing connecting school leaders together, connecting schools to community experts, to local projects. And that's funded across the region by territorial authorities working together with us and Greater Wellington. And then acknowledging that at the top, there's a huge amount of resources that comes from the participants and their wider communities supporting projects and actions. And, often get asked where Ministry of Education are, and they're in there in the schools. Essentially, schools are investing considerable staff time and budget in making all these great things happen in their communities. So that's our model, and really acknowledging the role of councils in Wellington City in that model. And then the next slide, just to acknowledge that, we're really feeling positive about this project and this grant, but there has been quite a change in the funding arrangements. So just wanted to flag that, when we look at 2025, around about 120,000 are invested over the 2 financial years, which do look a little bit different in the 6 months. Just over 1 full-time role across those 2 people, lots of events, total reach, 85 schools and centres. Working really collaboratively with a range of providers and offerings, including Wellington City Council staff. It is looking different for next year, which is on the next slide. We do have this grant, and we thank council staff for their support of this. We're also able to put some resources into that. We think it's going to be a great project. It does provide a pragmatic bridging arrangement, I think, for us to keep momentum and keep connection with schools and communities. But there is a piece of work to do next year in looking at where to next. So there's 2 parts to that. There's a regional education strategy that Greater Wellington have offered to coordinate, and there's also conversations we'd like to have about further funding options for keeping
Kristen,
the...
thank you. So you've just reached your time limit, so there's no time for questions, but thank you, very helpful, and thank you for talking to us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So next up we have Georgie Ferrari and Julie Gunn from the Sustainability Trust. Welcome.
Oh yes, we'll sit at the table. Just to talk when that green light is on.
So you have 5 minutes, and if you speak for 5 minutes, there's no time for questions. So
thank you. We'll talk quickly. I had a coffee before. Kia ora koutou, ko Georgie Ferrari, taku ingoa, and this is my lovely colleague, Julie Gunn, who's the manager of the Wellington Curtain Bank. Please enjoy Julie's upcycled curtain jacket for your pleasure. You're next. We're here to speak about item 2.2 on the agenda regarding the Waste Minimisation Fund.
The Wellington Curtain Bank has been operating since 2010, providing thousands of homes with upcycled, fully lined curtains, making them warmer, drier and healthier. Last year alone, we provided 1,422 pairs of curtains to 403 homes, all free of charge to families with a community services card. Over 15 years, that's 25,555 sets of curtains to over 7,400 families. This work is funded through grants, Sustainability Trust profits and volunteer effort, 4,000 hours last year, equivalent to over 2 full-time roles. We've also diverted 11 tonnes of fabric from landfill in the past year alone, and a whopping 39.5 tonnes in the last 3 years. So we're delivering both social and environmental benefits.
Up until recently, Genesis Energy sponsored us to the tune of $65,000 a year, and they announced earlier this year that they were discontinuing that sponsorship due to other funding priorities for them. So we applied to the Waste Minimisation Fund for that $65,000 to bridge us for a year while we had some more time to look for another corporate sponsor in what is, you'll appreciate, difficult economic times. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, our application is recommended for decline because we receive, it says in your papers, $26,000 from another council fund, which is the Social and Rec Fund. In reality, only $13,000 of that allocation goes to the Curtin Bank. The other amount goes somewhere else. That represents just 6.5% of the total $200,000 it costs us to run the Curtin Bank annually. There's nothing in the fund's criteria that prohibits applying to it if you receive another council grant. And we did actually check this with a council officer before we applied, so we're a little bit confused about why we declined on that basis. We understand that funding is limited, but we're concerned that nearly half of this round's recommendations are recommended to fund private sector initiatives over community-led initiatives. Businesses with far greater capacity to self-fund, while community-led projects like ours and many others deliver measurable outcomes with modest investments.
Councillors, the Curtin Bank diverts waste, supports low-income households and relies on extraordinary volunteer effort. The funding we request is modest, time-limited and would give us the breathing space to secure a new sponsorship. We ask you to reconsider the recommendation and reflect on the balance of this funding round. Thank you for your time and consideration. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou.
Thank you. So are there any questions? Councillor Foon?
Yeah. If the funding if the funding is not allocated, what will the outcome be for you over the next year if there isn't any extra funding from this fund?
And if we're unable to secure corporate sponsorship, which we've tried very hard to do, we may need to look at reducing hours at the Curtin Bank, maybe close some days. We've got a little bit of funding. We'll just have to put more and more effort into fundraising. And of course, that diverts us away from sewing the curtains and getting them to families in need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both very much. Thank you. I do know it's a good cause. I gave you the curtains from my house when I moved into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, they weren't great. I mean, they were in good condition, but ugly.
We'd welcome any councillors down to the Curtin Bank to come and see. I know some of you have been down and through, but we'd welcome any of you to come and have a look and see what we do. It's a truly impressive operation.
Might even measure you for a jacket.
Kia ora koutou.
I'd like to welcome Liam Prince from Kai Cycle. Good morning, welcome. 5 minutes, you know the drill.
Yes. Kia ora, Chair and Councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Liam. I'm the Composting Operations Manager at Kai Cycle. No composting stains on these clothes, as you can see. I've been in the role for about 4 years and I was heavily involved in preparing our application for the Waste Minimisation Fund. The purpose of my presentation is just to make you all aware and provide you with all the information about our application in order to make an informed decision. There were a few things that weren't included on the agenda paper that we feel are really important to communicate, but we do want to acknowledge the work that the council officers have done. We really support the focus of this fund of the top of the waste hierarchy, and also there are some great applications in amongst all of them. Just a bit about Kai Cycle. So we've just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. We have a thriving urban farm in Newtown. We grow veggies. And this year we've donated over 300 kilos of Kai to community organisations like the Home of Compassion and Newtown Community Centre for their free community meals. We run workshops, education and volunteering experiences. We've had over 1,300 volunteer hours this year and over 700 tamariki and teenagers from schools visit. And we do composting. We collect food scraps from over 220 households, businesses and organisations using e-bikes and trailer. We are diverting roughly 35 tonnes of food scraps from landfill every year and turning those food scraps into rich living compost. We have a stable business model and a proven track record. Turning to our application, we had a few ideas for this. Obviously, our core business is collecting food scraps and composting them. We collect primarily from businesses, organisations and residential customers in the CBD and Central City. And there is huge demand for composting services, and therefore there's huge scope for us to grow. But we do need support to do this, and we want to do this in line with Council's priorities in the waste minimisation space. So in particular, we want to do more in the Central City. We want to innovate more efficient and convenient collections for places like multi-unit dwellings or MUDs, some of which we are already collecting from and will not be covered by the Council's proposed curbside collection service. Expanding our services in these areas shows a promising pathway to a sustainable financial model for us as well, both so that we can offer more composting services, but also to support our gardening and educational mahi, for which we do rely on external funding for, although that funding some of this funding is from Council, which is mentioned in the agenda paper, although this funding is for our farm operations, not our composting operations. So what we're applying for here is to advance the composting and waste minimisation aspects of what we do at Kaicycle. In addition to our composting mahi, we've been really keen to find ways of preventing and redistributing the loads of avoidable and perfectly edible food waste that we receive in our collections. We've spoken with Kaibosh about this, and they're really keen to collaborate with us. And we also want to support our customers to reduce single-use plastics and packaging that they use and then give to us in our collections. And these two other ideas we also included in our application, and they do align better to the funding criteria more than composting. On advice from Council officers, we put in an application that covered all of this in 3 parts. So, and we also included separate budgets for each of them in the event that the officers did not want to recommend funding one or more of those parts. Again, part 1 is about composting and collections innovation in the Central City. Part 2 is about food waste prevention and food rescue. And part 3 is about reducing single-use plastics and packaging. We wanted to highlight this because the agenda paper does not mention the second and third part of our application, which again, much more aligned to the criteria. And the budget for those 2 parts of the application is only $18,000, 18, rather than the full application, which is $80,000 or 80. And we recognise that this larger 80,000 was and is maybe a big ask for a project, but with a reduced budget of say 30 to 35,000, we could do part 2 and 3 of our project and a scaled back version of our Central City Composting Innovation Project. In all respects, our project would deliver tangible waste minimisation with good alignment to Council priorities, diverting 5 to 10 tonnes of organic waste from landfill, preventing several tonnes of food waste being generated, and targeting sectors of the community who are currently and projected to be underserved by Council services. And again, our proposals present the opportunity for us as a not-for-profit charitable enterprise to move closer towards financial sustainability. So we ask the committee you consider funding a scaled-back version of our application and help us to help the city reduce waste and environmental impacts, both in the short and long term. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much for coming and explaining it. Appreciate it. And so now we have Anna Bordenong from Nil Products. In person, yes. Oh. So Anna, perhaps you'd like to introduce your associate.
I'm Ryan Toko Ingwa. What's the collective noun for Liams, I wonder? If you have a quota, we've reached it. So we can get rid of 10 million plastic bottles every year in Wellington. I got your attention, that's what I want. We're already doing a lot of this already. We've grown together several successful companies from nothing to market dominance, and for 11 long years, Nil Products, based beautifully in Island Bay and Berhampore, has been delivering sustainable solutions. Right now in Featherston Street and in Berhampore, we have sustainability stations, refill stations, if you will. We're already doing this. Our proposal is to bring that to the people. Nice Man Stu turned up earlier and talked about ghost diving. Wonderful, incredible. What if most of that rubbish wasn't being generated from the start, so it doesn't end up in the harbour. We can reduce at source. This is what we mean.
Thank you, Liam. So Liam touched that we were established 11 years ago now, and I wanted to basically do something for good. Prior to that, I was a commercial lawyer for a number of years. I wanted to put my skills to good use. We've won many awards over that time, and we, as Liam said, we have a refill station in 2 of our stores, and we see that those refill stations need to be everywhere. Right, but those refill stations need to be automatic. They need to be like a vending machine, and we want to develop that. So in your proposal that we put together, there's a business plan and a feasibility study and how we can use this fund, and we'd be grateful to obtain funding from you. Also, we are looking at Callaghan Fund as well to support us in private investment. But if we can establish the first stage with Wellington City Council and establish the first automatic vending machine for refill products around the cleaning sector, it'd be amazing. So we see it either on the streets or in apartment blocks.
Or in institutions that are filled with people who are more than sympathetic. Wellington, people care, and we see that every day in Featherston Street in Berhampore.
Each refillery station will divert 10,000 single-use plastic bottles. This initiative also supports all the SDGs, 11, 12 and 13, sustainable cities, responsible consumption and climate action. We will also not only create these refill stations, we will supply the data and the information to Wellington City Council and other institutions to help develop more strategies around reducing waste, because we need to reduce the waste.
And people will see that their small actions collectively are adding up more and more and more. Thus, 10 million plastic bottles removed, diverted in Wellington alone every year.
We see Wellington City Council as a strategic enabler, not just a funder, I should say. We want to work closely with you to establish this and show the world what a great city we are and what we can do from a sustainability element.
And we produce that data and share it with you so then it can be shared to the wider public of Wellington. It's all there for everyone.
This is a great business model. It's reoccurring revenue. So it is scalable.
Just, I think, for clarification, in our papers, it's down as Munch Cupboard. Is that right?
Yes, that's our company name.
So, but then in our other papers, it's down as nil products. So just so the councillors know, it's the same thing.
Yes, thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
Our company is Munch Cupboard Limited. We are trading as nil products.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Chung.
Thanks so much for doing a great job. Can you tell me how many different types of products do you actually have that can be used?
Yeah, so we are really going to focus on cleaning products. So we're talking about liquid cleaning for the laundry. We're talking about dishwashing sheets, whether dishwashing powder or dishwashing liquid. We're talking anything that you may use for cleaning, like cleaning the toilet, cleaning the bathroom, wiping your bench, the full range. So people don't need to go and get another plastic bottle.
We're already doing this in our refill stations, and people are already engaging, but what's smarter than them coming to us is us going to them. So no unnecessary trips to the supermarket where you think, I need to buy one thing, you end up buying 10. They can wander downstairs in an apartment building, it's right there for them. And they can use their time for much better things.
Yes.
We have no machines at the moment. We have taps and we have 20-litre containers that people bring in their bottles, they turn the tap on and that dispenses it. What we're suggesting here, we will work with a product developer to actually build automatic, a bit like, I don't know, the Coke machine. Not that I agree with Coke, but that sort of machine. So it's automatic, they put their card in, it dispenses what they need. There's already some in Indonesia, right? And they do it with Unilever, right? And they have shampoo and conditioner and the bathroom products. So we're suggesting let's do it in the cleaning products, because we see that you go to the supermarket, the whole aisle is full of plastic bottles. We don't need them.
Anna, thank you very much. So your time is up, but I really appreciate what you do. Those bottles take up so much. Are they called bottles when they're plastic?
They can be.
Yeah, ghastly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we have Brigitte Sistig from Repair Network Aotearoa online, maybe? Yes.
Yep.
Brigitte, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Kia ora koutou, ko Brigitte Takuingoa, and I'm from Repair Network Aotearoa, which is a national NGO that concerns itself with introducing repair to the waste minimisation projects. Could I have my slides, please? Thank you. Right, so just a little bit of context. So this is a national organisation, and we have 5 PO that is concerns itself with community repair, like little repair cafes, for example, that you may be aware of. Also repair education, which includes research into repair. Then repair economy, working with businesses to foster repair in their operations, and civic stewardship, places like you, councils, and of course central government with campaigning for the right to repair, which, as you're all aware, has been paused for now. But in essence, the mission is to transform communities through stewardship of repair and growing the economy. Could I have the next slide, please? So in this context, we conducted a survey last year and repeat this year to look at our understanding of repair in Aotearoa, specifically attitudes, experiences, and the rate of repair. This was conducted in conjunction with University of Canterbury and Repair Network Aotearoa. So here's one question, and this looks at, for example, are there any barriers to your attempt and motivation to repair? And we can see that people regard professional repair services are too expensive to actually access. And in the next slide, please. Thank you. We can confirm that people identify that repair is an important social norm and that individuals should follow the social opportunity for repair. So we need to create, a social context for repair. And incentivization of repair appears a very good approach. And the proposal that I'm going to present to you is a repair voucher. So, and also councils can contribute with this by making repair businesses more visible. In the next slide. Thank you. This is the repair voucher. It's actually started around 2021 in Europe, primarily in many countries, very successful. And the scheme is funded often by a government department, could also be council. And it's about identified businesses registering with the entity, and consumers or community participants are able to register a repair request. And once this is completed, then the repairer will be paid the difference, which is around 50% in general of the repair cost. So our proposal is to begin the process of assessing the viability of establishing a repair voucher scheme in Wellington City. And we are proposing community-led project that has focus groups and also includes a small number of repair businesses that we can focus on and promote this within the community. These are aspects that have been very important in the previous studies. And we have chosen Wellington because in the next slide, you can see you already have a strong reuse culture and also now a repair culture with the growing number of repair cafes within the city. And for example, these repair cafes also collected some data, and we can see that over 2,000 visitors you had over the 3 years that have been reported in those events. And also we have 3.5 kgs of waste prevented, which compares to 44 tonnes nationwide that are reported on our data system, as well as CO2 emissions diverted. So we are really excited to be able to work with you and empower Wellingtonians to take up the scheme. I also like to mention that Australia, there are a couple of projects that are actually looking at this, and they're going, one is already running and another one is going ahead early next year. So it is a fantastic opportunity, for I think Wellington City Council to make an advance in the repair movement in Aotearoa. Considering in particular that we have the right repair legislation stalled for now. And so, yeah, I appreciate your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions. Kia ora.
So, Greta, thank you. We don't really have time for any questions, so thank you very much. I must tell you, I darn my clothes and I can sew on buttons, take up hems. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Kia ora.
And now we have Ian Hutchings from the Trapping Group Cross Country Vehicle Club. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for listening. We'll see if we can get the PowerPoint up. Who's doing that?
She's setting it up for you.
Okay, good. I'll wait. Lovely. Look, the project, it's in the Council's Te Kaupapa Reserve, and a bit around the coastal road round from Ohio Bay. What we're doing is we're preparing the ground up there for the release of kiwi by Capital Kiwi. Capital Kiwi want to release their kiwi closer to the city, and to do that you've got to actually manage the ground and population of stoats. So stoats are our main target, and we get a bit of we've moved on. Go back. I'll do the forward if it's okay. We get a bycatch, we get rats and mice and weasels and various other things, but stoats are the things we're after, because those are the ones which damage the kiwi in their embryonic stage straight out of the nest. People involved, obviously Capital Kiwi, they provide some traps and they'll give us some bait from time to time. Council involved, again it's their land, your land. We put up results on Trap New Zealand so they're publicly available for people to see, and we get them to do the work, and I'm going up there after the strip to do some more. 150 odd traps to go. There's the network we've got up there. It's a bit busy there, but each one of those little blobs represents a trap of one form or another in the reserve. You'll notice we work with the local community. In that very top left-hand slice coming down on the left of that picture, the actual land boundary which you have goes inside that slice. The land beyond it is owned by several owners. They wouldn't let council trap there, they wouldn't let Capital Kiwi trap there, but we worked with them and we've got agreement to put extra traps, and that kind of completes the boundary. So that's the year we've been working in. Year by year, you can see a whole lot of statistics, but they don't mean much. The red ones are the rats. They're your rats. We don't really want them, but if you take them away, we'd be great. So we've been doing it for the last 6 years. We think we're making a big difference up there. And if you look at the stoats, that's the stoat trapping over the last 6 years, from an early high of 20s, 30s and 40s being caught in a year down to today. On the right-hand side, we were getting just a few. So we're getting pretty close to, well, we don't know. Extinction, what's extinction? So far, so good. Either the stoats are getting smarter and they're avoiding our traps, but we kind of think we're getting on top of them. So we're ever hopeful. But we recognise this is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and even when the kiwi get released, we're going to be up there still, because you can't let it come back up. You've got to just keep on chomping down the predator you don't want. So that's what we're up to. Funding, we haven't had any funding from council so far, no direct funding at all from anybody, in fact. We obviously think we're a good cause. We've got some good results at work out there. But as a whole, we think we're doing a good job for the city, and we think we're equally as deserving as any other groups you wish to fund. So we did have a quick look around. We look at the funding where you are proposing to fund. You're proposing some funding for assessing the effect of grazing kina on regenerating kelp in the harbour extremities, which is interesting perhaps for those who worry about kelp and kina. But they're not changing anything, they're just monitoring what's going on. Ghost diving, we have no comment on ghost diving, it's a great idea. But there are other projects there which are basically national organisations which have local outreach. They've got large reserves in their capital, like 900,000 and 500,000 in their reserves. They're in the charities' contribution returns. So we think there's a question for you to ask about whether you're going to fund local volunteers or what I'll call national organisations that parachute in local support teams for their particular operation and engage with the community. We're all volunteers. We just get up and do our stuff as best we can. We're looking for some funding for equipment. I had a woman the other day who said to me, I'd like to join. She says, where do I get my power drill from to open the traps and the trapping tools? I said, well, right now you go buy them. We don't think it's right. They're your traps, they're your rats, they're your stoats. We'd like you to help us to get rid of them. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Foon. Oh.
Thank you. Look, it's a reasonably modest application that you made, but what is the equipment that you're seeking funding for?
You've got a bit of gorse up there. We'd like to clear that away from our traps. So we're looking at things like secateurs, maybe a weed eater or two. You need to open the boxes. You've got specialised tools to unload and deload the traps. Those sorts of things are what we're looking for. We have about 6 different what we call routes. You saw them up there where we go up there. So we'll take 6 teams up there today, and each of them needs to have this sort of equipment. We've had some. It's wearing out, frankly. People tend to lose occasionally. Their power drills, they bring them home, they wear out and they say, how do I replace it? Well, right now you buy another one. So that's what we're looking for. It's pretty simple.
Thank you very much for coming to present to us today. Very helpful. We've run out of time. Thank you.
Good fun.
Okay. And so now online we have Cheryl Lowe from Dance Aotearoa. Cheryl, good morning. Welcome. I think you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address you all today. My name is Cheryl Lowe, and I'm the Executive Director of the Wellington-based national dance body Dance Aotearoa New Zealand, also widely known by its acronym DANCE. The purpose of my participation today is to highlight for your attention the fact that the key statement contained in the recommendation to decline our application is factually incorrect and thus wholly invalid as a basis for decision-making by councillors. As a quick recap, DANCE is a charitable non-profit organisation which has been dedicated for 3 decades to the promotion of dance, an art form which statistically ranks the lowest of all art forms in terms of income sustainability, and yet has the lowest amount of, or the least amount of infrastructure support compared to other art sectors. Our application sought modest funding support for dance writing, reviewing and publishing, to promote dance and movement artworks and events in upcoming iconic Wellington Arts Festivals taking place in the early part of 2026. These notably include the New Zealand Festival of the Arts, New Zealand Fringe Festival and Cuba Duper. The erroneous statement that I referred to earlier is at the bottom of page 33 in the Arts and Culture Projects Fund recommended decline table. It says, quote, officers recognise the role of dance in the advocacy and promotion of the art form. However, a strong case for the role of reviewer was not made. We were literally dumbfounded and incredulous in reading this contention, which is 100% factually incorrect, directly negated by support documentation supplied in our application, and contrary to extensive public evidence of dance as an established, well-respected reviewer of dance and performance artworks over 3 decades. We cannot imagine how the case for dance as a reviewer might have been made any stronger, and can only respectfully ask why, if there was any doubt, knowledge gap or misunderstanding, we were not contacted to further elaborate or provide additional information, as is explicitly provided for in the processes set out by Council for reviewing applications and for formulating recommendations to Council decision makers. Our application excluded expressions of unequivocal support in the strongest terms by two of the main beneficiaries of our projected reviewing work, namely the New Zealand Festival of the Arts and the New Zealand Fringe Festival, both key iconic fixtures in Wellington's cultural calendar. These statements are included in the handouts for your ease of reference. Additionally, we have statements of support from prominent capital-based national dance bodies, the Royal New Zealand Ballet, the New Zealand School of Dance, and respected senior dance critics, writers, and arts sector leaders. The content of our application, combined with letters and statements of support and our digital publishing and social media channels, collectively provide irrefutable substantive evidence of sector-wide recognition and value placed on our long-established role as a respected generator and publisher of highly professional reviews of dance, movement, and performance art. There is great appreciation for the contribution we make in boosting the domestic and international profile of artists, the festivals themselves, Wellington City as the cultural capital, and development of dance audiences, dance arts literacy, and community engagement. The benefits delivered through our reviewing accrue not only to dance artists and practitioners, but also to dance companies, choreographers, affiliated artists, producers, set and costume designers, photographers, dance filmmakers, and many others whose profile we actively boost through our publicity and social media promotion. We receive consistent high volume feedback on the value of our reviewing and many requests for reviewing by artists, choreographers, and others. There are a few things that distinguish our reviews that I'd like to highlight. The first is that in commissioning professional reviewers, we remunerate them, and this is something that is not widely done or actually very seldom done. And we note that the council has previously funded reviewing platforms that do not remunerate their dance writers or reviewers. We include a high level of visual material and proactively promote all of our reviews, which are reshared. And we had one review that we put up recently that in one day received 6,000 views.
Cheryl, thank you very much. So your time is up.
Okay.
So
oh, sorry. Did I have 5 or 10 minutes?
5.
Oh, okay. I see. All right. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll break for morning tea now, and 10 minutes is enough, isn't it? Yes. Right, 10 minutes. So we'll come back here at 25 to 11. Everybody, we're now going to go into general business, the Natural Environment Fund. I'd just like to welcome, how do you pronounce Lau? Lau? Henk Lau and Mark Farrer. Is Henk here? Yes, Henk is here. Good. To introduce the report.
Kia ora koutou, ko Henk toko ingoa. I am the Urban Ecology Manager within our Parks and Open Spaces team, and I'm joined by Mark Farrer to present the Natural Environment Fund paper, recommendation paper. And just want to give some context. This fund gives an opportunity for community groups to do some action in the environment to enhance biodiversity and protect and enhance biodiversity, and do some environmental education in those spaces. I will take the paper as read and just give an opportunity for questions.
Yeah, does anyone have questions? Councillor Foon, you're very busy this morning. Oh, thank you.
I'll keep it brief. Kia ora, Henk, thank you. Just my concern with, we've got so many great groups and not enough money in the fund, but just there is a broad offer to help many of the groups from within the work that is already going on within our teams. How sustainable is that for you to keep absorbing that mahi into what you're doing to get the outcomes everybody wants?
Within our current budgets, we've got allocation for connecting with communities and supporting those conservation action. It does mean that there's a bit of a trade-off between work through contractors in areas that really need it, for environmental weeds, for instance, that grow on top of other plants, versus Tradescantia that grow at the bottom. So it's kind of a trade-off between which weeds do we want to control with which groups. So we can fit it now, but if the funding requests increase, it does take away from our operational ability.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chair. Henk, you were speaking with Councillor O'Brien and I just in the break there. We were talking about some discretionary funding that your department has. I just wonder if you could provide that information to the council in terms of we've just heard quite an interesting submission from the gentleman in Owhiro Bay, and just wondering if there's any opportunities within your discretionary funding to maybe help them.
Good, thank you. Yes, like I said before, we do have some funding within our budgets to support community conservation action, and we do that already with a wide range of groups, so about 120 environmental groups already do that either through planting or pest animal control or pest plant control. So we do have funding available for them. With regards to the gentleman earlier, Ian, we actually have an agreement with the group since 2019 to provide traps and tools and all sorts of other resources to help them trap in those areas. So yes, it's already incorporated in our current funding budgets.
So now, Councillor Chung, you have a question? No. Councillor Abdurrahman.
Just following up on from Councillor O'Brien's one, you said you can fund pest control, and I wonder how the millipede issue in the Owhiro Bay can tap into that funding, and is there any organisation that applied for it? If not, how that can work for the community on the ground?
Good, thank you. Millipedes. Yes, so with regards to millipedes, they kind of fall outside of the pest animal space, and our current focus is on any animal that's classed as a pest animal. We do, however, work with public health around other issues like pigeons around the city. And so we see where we can help out. And so we're already providing officer time as part of an advisory group along with MPI to provide information to residents about how they can manage millipedes a lot easier around their homes.
Follow up. Regardless to the funding itself, it's about $170,000 requested by 13 organizations compared to only about less than half of them who received because of the funding availability. And I just wonder the criteria that we set at the council, if all those organizations who get the funding met the criteria more than the rest who didn't get it, or if anything influences the decision beyond the criteria.
Thank you. No, so we looked at the criteria in some of the applications, like for instance, the vegetable garden out in Johnsonville that was applied for, that really didn't fit the criteria, as well as the application for the sculptures that we heard about this morning doesn't really fit the criteria of this fund. So the criteria was used strictly, and then we also look at what is actually possible, what can we actually fund that will get people out there actively engaging with nature, doing something like, for instance, planting. And then for some of the applications where they were asking funding for reports, it was like $6,000 for a report in the Makara school. That is part of a much larger picture, and so we were looking at the yields from that report. How would that actually engage in the future opportunities? What's at the back of that report was a $100,000 project that still needs to be funded on top of that. So we looked at some practical ways to get people out and engaging with the environment, enhancing their environments around where they live.
I now call on Councillor Chung for a brief question.
Sorry, I wasn't quite ready yet. I'm very supportive of these volunteer groups going out doing pest control and catching these rodents and things. But where does the demarcation between the Greater Wellington Regional Council responsibility and these volunteer groups stand? Like, isn't that their primary job, or one of the jobs, that to actually look after these things, to keep the pests down?
Kia ora, thank you very much. So the Wellington Regional Council, they only manage 2 sites within the Wellington City area, which is Otari, which is a KNE site, a key native ecosystem site, as well as on the south coast. They've got a small site there. Other than that, they don't actually have any responsibility within the city to control any or to do any conservation action on any of our reserves. So it's solely on Wellington City Council to look after its reserves, and so that's why we support these community groups.
So any more questions? No? Okay. So thank you, officers. Thank you both for all your help and knowledge and work. So we'll now move towards debate. And I think Councillor Al-Rubai, is that right? Got it. We'll move the paper. Do I have a seconder? Oh, gosh, you're testing me, you guys. Councillor O'Brien. A second.
No, sorry.
No, sorry, you're not on the committee. Sorry. Councillor Abdurrahman. No, I'll do Councillor Abdurrahman. I can do it. It's very testing. So, is there any debate? Doesn't have to be a debate, Ray. I can see you warming up. Councillor Foon.
All I want to say is that this fund is really little, and if we could, it would be something. I think if we could review it next to in our annual plan.
Would you like to produce an amendment to put up the rates by 10%?
No, but You know what I'm saying.
I do.
So I just want to thank everyone for the amazing work that they do, but also for our officers for working with all the community groups to get the maximum benefit. And in a way that we're working together, this is the area I know that council officers do and work with our volunteer groups, and we get an amazing outcome. So I just want to thank everyone for that contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Alrubai, would you like to have the right of reply?
No, thank you.
I will keep practicing, I promise. So I now put the motion, which has been moved. Oh, we haven't voted on it yet, have we?
Yeah, we've moved and seconded, so now we...
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Press 1 if you're yes, press 2 if you're no. So that's passed unanimously. Excellent. So we just go on to the next one. Okay, so I'll now welcome Officers Renee Rushton and Joanna Langford to introduce the report for the Waste Minimisation Fund. And also Officer Beth Keatley. All right, welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora, councillors. I am really excited to be here talking to you today in my new capacity as the Waste Infrastructure and Services Manager, which I started on Monday. And I just wanted to introduce myself to you in that way. But given I have extremely limited knowledge of the subject matter, we've got the amazing Renee here, who Renee's going to introduce the paper and will both be available to answer any questions for you. I'm handing over to them.
Kia ora koutou, ko Renee Tukuingwa. I'm the manager of the Waste Minimisation team based out at the landfill, and I'm here to introduce the Waste Minimisation Fund paper. So just firstly, the fund is comprised of money from the waste levy. So for every time a tonne of waste is disposed of, $65, a $65 levy is charged, and that levy is collected and sent to the Ministry for the Environment. Around 50% of that is divvied out back to territorial authorities and must be spent in line with the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. So just to be clear, it's not ratepayer funding, it's waste levy funding. Excuse me, I get a bit shaky public speaking. So, secondly, we reviewed the Waste Minimisation Fund in May. So at this point, we changed the criteria to focus on high impact projects. We increased the total money available. We took the cap on took the cap off the total amount that people could apply for. Previously, people could only apply for $25,000, and now there's no cap. And we also took away the waste-specific streams, so people can apply for anything. And the main focus for the criteria is looking at the top of the waste hierarchy. So projects that design waste out, projects that focus on repair and reuse and these sorts of things are our key focus. And the reason that we're doing that is because if we don't have the waste in the first place, then we don't have to pay for other options for eliminating it. We're working towards intergenerational sustainability, and Council can support this goal by funding innovative solutions led by businesses, community groups and organisations that result in improved resource efficiency and waste reduction. And funding businesses is not a new thing. We've funded businesses for a long time, and the officers have done an amazing job of promoting the changes to the fund since May, and they've really got the word out and supported potential applicants to put strong applications in. And we've had a really amazing cohort of applications come in. We've had 17 applications applying for a total of just over 750,000. And we're recommending allocating $215,000 to 4 projects in full and 3 in part, spanning a balance of community-led projects and businesses. I guess that's about all I wanted to say. Just that, take the paper as read and happy to answer questions.
Does anyone have any brief questions? Councillor Chung?
Thank you very much. When you're using your criteria and you're looking at small community-led led projects and comparing them to large organisations, do you look at it differently? Like, do you think that large companies should have more resources, so therefore they're treated differently, or do you treat them all similarly and based on their merits?
All of the projects are judged based on the criteria of the fund. So that's looking at where they sit in the hierarchy. There is an element of, will this project be financially self-sustaining over time for projects where that's applicable. So my judgment is that we judge all applications the same.
Great, thank you.
And now call on Councillor Abdurrahman.
So you said the levy comes the money comes from the levy that's been sent from the ministry. How much was currently that? How much of that is the 250? Because we increased from 100 to 150 last year. How that increase come to play, and how much do we get actually from the ministry?
So I think that's a great question, and in my new role I'm looking very much into that at the moment to understand how all of the funding works. I would like to say that the legislation is currently changing, so what we currently get is very likely to change and probably reduce in the future. So if I could, I would like to bring that back and provide advice to councillors in the new year once we've had an opportunity to really get over and understand how that funding works. It's quite complex. I believe there's several $1 million in the fund at the moment. Some of that's been earmarked for other purposes, which are all subject to future decisions. But I think it would be really good if I could provide some concise advice to elected members in the new year on that fund.
Thank you. I love concise advice too. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, and I would welcome that. I think that's a really great idea, so fully support that idea. My question is about IP, really. We have seen there's obviously applications from organisations that would potentially make money out of some of the things that they would be funded for. Is there any opportunity for us as a council who have provided seed funding essentially to a business to get any ongoing benefit from that?
All of the businesses that have applied have agreed to share the results of their case studies, both with council and with the wider industry. They'll make their results open source. So in terms of like any monetary benefits for the council, I don't think that's something that we're looking at. But in terms of like absolutely gaining the benefits and sharing them and having those benefits flow on into other potential waste minimisation impacts, that's absolutely something that we have prioritised. Does that answer your question? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And now, Councillor Foon.
Kia ora, just two questions. I just want to test, like, we've got a couple of applications for reports and case studies, and so I guess how do officers view that over, actual tonnage movement from the landfill in our priority areas? So how do you weigh those up?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. We think it's really appropriate and have sort of made it explicit that research projects and projects that are going to develop solutions where there aren't solutions are appropriate to be funded. For example, in the construction and demolition space, there aren't a lot of solutions currently. So having strong research projects and development projects is a great use of the fund.
Okay, great. And just on the promotion of the fund, just can you describe a little bit more on how you promoted the fund? And I noted there was a webinar, but just so we can understand, I guess we've got quite a heavy influx of C&D, which is great, but how did you get to that point?
Yeah, sure thing. Because of the review of the fund that happened in May, we were aware that we really wanted to get the word out far and wide to interested applicants that it there were changes and there was more money available, and we wanted to really attract these high impact projects. So officers sent, I believe, over 500 emails. It was advertised through industry specific channels. It was advertised through our networks, all of our networks. I think over 30 conversations were had in person and online, and individualised support was provided to applicants to make sure that they had the best chance of putting in a strong application.
Yeah, so how much weighting do we give to community-led rather than corporate-led? I mean, just because there's a couple of applications that we're seeking to approve whereby the amount probably we're giving probably isn't the difference between the viability of the project or not. Yet there's probably other ones like Sustainable Trust, for example, who likely will not be able to raise those funds and may have to stop what they're doing. So, you know what I mean? So do we put a weight on, is it likely that this will go ahead without our grant versus this is very likely it won't go ahead without our grant?
That's a really good question. We currently don't have a weighting between assigning, a certain amount to community and a certain amount to business-led funds, and I think it's really important that we don't have that ring fence. In future, maybe we could have a fund for businesses and a fund for community applications, but at the moment it's all in one, and having the ability to be flexible around what we are funding is really important, and following that criteria of assigning the funds to the organisations and the applications that best meet that criteria of upper hierarchy and impact is something that is advice that we've sort of built into the review of the Waste Minimisation Fund.
Yeah, but if we even if we don't differentiate between community and business, should we be differentiating between will it go ahead if we fund or will it not go ahead if we don't fund? You know what I mean? So there's that subtle difference whereby are we making the difference to see this going through, or are we utilising our money which we have very little of, in the best possible way to actually have more things done, I guess.
I guess I would say that it's not the responsibility of the Waste Minimisation Fund to hold organisations and businesses up across the city. Our aim is to fund really high impact projects that are going to make a difference to waste minimisation. That's kind of our core goal. Would you add anything, Joe? Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. My question was actually similar to Councillor Tiffenbach, because perhaps I'll put it this way, is looking at the criteria have in the report, is there a criteria that were the grant not made, the activity wouldn't go ahead, and that becomes a factor to take into account? The second question I have is, to what extent do you assure yourself about the capability of an organisation to do the particular waste minimisation project, and be sure that that the organisation applying for the grant has the capability claimed to do that particular work?
Okay, to answer your first question, that particular criteria does not exist. And the second question, we do look into I guess, whether we perceive that the organisation can actually achieve the work that they're doing. And that is done through a variety of mechanisms, through trying to understand the businesses and the organisations that are applying, their track record, our relationships with them, if we've got them, those kinds of aspects, yeah.
And did I see, was it Councillor Chung, did you hand up?
Yes, this is sort of following on from that. When I assume that you actually, after the period of time after the fund has been granted, you will check to see if that if the objectives have been achieved. So do you have any idea about the funding that we've actually given where the objectives haven't been achieved? Is it a very high percentage? Or I'm not asking for a particular number, but are there many of them?
I don't have that data to hand, but we do 100% keep track of the funding that we give out. All funded organisations and applications are required to provide a report at the end of their funding period, and they often have other criteria that checks in on midway, or sometimes there's conditions added in where they have to meet a certain objective before the second half of the funding is released.
Great, thank you.
So I just think we'll have a 5-minute break now just to sort out a couple of technical issues, and then we'll come back. So 5 minutes to make a cup of tea, but not everyone. For those of you who think we're outside plotting, we want Councillor Chung, Councillor Compton, the meeting has resumed. For those of you who think we're outside plotting, we were not. We're just sorting out a few technical issues as to whether we have an amendment in the substantive or have it separately. We're going to have it in the substantive. So I now call upon Councillor Foon to introduce the paper.
Yeah, tēnā koutou everybody, and thank you, Chair. It's great to be at our first Te Mataaho o Te Hapori Grants Subcommittee meeting, and it is a privilege always to be moving the Waste Minimisation Fund. So I do just want to acknowledge all of the submitters this morning. It is so exciting to see much innovation happening in our city, and that particularly in the circular, business opportunities, I can see that. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry, I just got. I interrupted you. Did I interrupt you?
Oh, no, I just can't hear.
Sorry. I didn't realise I had the microphone on. I was just concerned about the amendment. Apologies.
Are you okay with the amendment?
I just thought we should have the names. So we're going to have another 5 minutes. We're going to have a slow process, but a very amicable one. The motion will be moved by Councillor Johnny Osborne and seconded by, who else is on the committee? Holden. By the Mayor. So then when do we do the amendment after that?
Yes, but would Johnny like to speak to, Councillor Osborne like to speak to them?
Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Osborne?
At this stage, I'll just reserve my right. Thank you.
And Your Worship?
Look, the only thing I'd say is very important we get these grants out, but to the extent there's some interesting consideration required about the recipients of grants and some clarification required for the current criteria of the grants, then let's examine that. For me, the critical thing is that we want waste minimisation projects across the whole swag of areas where we need to reduce waste. Some of that is waste, and we need to engage with organisations, public, private, not-for-profit, for-profit, who have the capability to do that, because that's going to add to the intelligence and understanding across the sector on what we need to do to improve our performance in this area.
Right, thank you. Is there any debate? Oh, do I do the amendment first? So Councillor Foon has an amendment, which is now not on the screen. That's not your amendment. It's the other one that's the amendment.
So just to clarify, what was the...
It's the one about... Okay, we're there. Councillor Foon, would you like to introduce your amendment, which is on the screens?
To clarify, is that all of the in red at the moment? Yes, okay. Yeah, kia ora tātou, and I just want to acknowledge that the work that goes into preparing these funds, to preparing the grant application, and thank officers. In regards to the amendment, I really acknowledge the great work that's being done in the C&D space, and acknowledge it is a massive priority and a challenge for us across the region. And there is a gap in how we deal with that. So we are seeking innovation. But what I am requesting here, that we just take more time to look at two of the applications so that we're really clear on the outcomes that we're after, that we can see in a little bit more depth what the funds will deliver for council, for our communities, and in particular for waste, reducing waste and to contribute to the circular economy. And number 4, I think that it is wise for us, particularly as we are a new committee, just to have a refresh and a reset on the criteria that we've got for the Waste Minimisation Fund, and perhaps to ask the question that Councillor Tiffenparker asked, which I think is a healthy one, so that when we get these great projects coming to us, we're all in alignment and clear on what we are trying to achieve and the criteria that we've set. So nothing wrong with what's going on now. What I do love about this is it's challenging us, it's really pushing innovation forward, and that is good for the council, but it also has challenged us a little, and that is healthy too. So I think this is a healthy step to take. And I also thank you for your time and tolerance. I know that's very valuable today, Chair, but I do ask for your support in these 2 amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Osborne, you're second. No, who's seconding it? Oh, sorry. Councillor Aruba Afnan.
You're getting there, Councillor Young. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to second the amendments. I also just... Do I need permission to speak to the second one? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to touch on a couple of points. I'm very happy to get further advice on practical and tangible outcomes for the reports that would be produced. It's just to give us a clearer understanding on how it will support the city and the sector, which I'm very excited about. So I look forward to those. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Abdulrahman.
Kia ora whānau. I think it's really important. I was not in the committee, the grant committee last triennium, but I used to come to the committee and observe how they do things. One of the things that helps sometimes. So now I would like to bring to your attention, May 2025, few months before election, the previous council made a decision to change the criteria how we allocate this funding. In the last triennium, the way this funding used to work, if it was only up to 5,000, this council approves. And from there onwards, that council increased the funding from $100,000 to $250,000, and then delegate under 5,000 to be approved by officers, which constitutes up to 50,000, and the rest to be approved by this council. More than 5,000, for officers to bring back advices based on the criteria the committee set it at the time. And from my understanding, they have gone through the process, officers brought back now this advice based on the criteria the previous council set. If we must review the criteria, let it be. However, the notion that we can pick one organization over another, even though I know, example, the Kai Cycle is just an organization that I have a big time for because they do a lot of great job in our community. It's proven time again and again. But they are not the only organizations that have requested for more funding. The sustainability, the curtain, the sustainability, they have requested for funding. The nil products, they have requested for more funding. And this category, for 250,000 funding, more than 770 something requests comes through. So basically, we need to look at it. We need to rely on officers in some of those areas when they bring options to us using the criteria that we set. Changing the criteria, I'm open to it. We should discuss, because based on, is that a local or national organization? Is that a business or community-led? We should look at all those things. Is that sustainable for that organization to survive without having that funding, any funding from us? We should look at those things. However, going through similar things that we have gone 3 years ago, when one of the councillors who is not around this table currently moved an amendment last minute to take funding from one place to allocate to another, to good organization at the time, in a way that is politically interpreted outside to vote against it. I don't think so that is the way. So if we look at it, we should be looking at how we can also look for the sustainability organization, how we can look at for the NIL organization as well. All those organizations, 17 of them who applied. In saying that, since it's holiday season, I'm okay to support this amendment. But in going forward, I think we need to have clarity when we pick one organization over another and move an amendment against recommendation of officers brought to us according to the criteria that we set it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And now call on Councillor Osborne. You're next on the list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I just want to quickly acknowledge the mahi of the officers who've brought this work to us. I can recognise as a former public servant, it must be frustrating when some criteria was set not too long ago and we're now questioning some of the things that have come out of that, which is entirely our right as governors. I will support this, and I'm happy to look at the criteria again. I think I would support what both Mayor Little and Councillor Tiffenbacher talked about in terms of the impact that granting or not granting some funding would have on the viability of an organisation going forward. I think that's a worthy thing to consider. That's really all I wanted. Oh, sorry, one other point, which is I would also like us to look at if we are going to be providing seed funding to organisations to develop potentially profitable outcomes for those organisations, whether there is capacity for us as a council to gain some sort of benefit for that, because I think that's only fair. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Councillor Tiffenbacher.
Yeah, I think the reality is this amendment's great that you're looking at it again, just because you're going to review the process more than anything else. I don't think it's an insult against companies that you're saying we're going to hold off from funding. I don't think it's an insult against the officers for the work they've done. I think it's really just about saying what do we want is the best outcomes. And I think, our job isn't to accept everything that's brought to us to this table. Otherwise, it would be a very easy job, and we shouldn't even be here. It is to question process, and it is to question criteria, if you like. So, as I said, I do think there should be something within the process which says, will this project still go ahead if we do not fund? Will it not? And what's the outcome of that? And if we weigh that in there, that may give us slightly different things. I mean, it may still be exactly the same outcomes. And I'm fine with that because I have no issue with the recommendations, but I do think maybe the process sounds as though it could do a bit of refining. So I'm glad that you guys are considering looking at it since I'm not on that committee. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Chair. I too look forward to reviewing the criteria. However, these officer recommendations were put up on current criteria. I'd like to just note that construction waste levies that are collected by our city and passed through are in the millions, and they are contributing to our housing affordability crisis. Private organisations are often equipped to scale up and utilise internal capabilities within their organisations. Housing affordability is important to Wellingtonians, and reducing construction waste through demolition and construction is critical to Wellingtonians. Using BIM for waste minimisation would also help to achieve that. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the practical and tangible outcomes that will come back to this committee for those applications. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councillor
Rubai. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reiterate, again, I think the construction and demolition sort of kaupapa is very important in the waste minimisation, and I want to acknowledge that, there are some companies, as you, Councillor Tiffenbacher and Mayor Little, have mentioned, that are more equipped and have, the resources and also the skills to be able to conduct such important mahi for the wider sector and for Wellingtonians. But again, this is a practice of good governance, is to relook at the criteria and make sure that we are making the best decisions that we have with the information that we've got, and asking for a little bit more information on the practical and tangible outcomes is definitely practicing good governance here, because we don't want to miss out on good opportunities to provide for the sector and for the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? So I will just say very briefly that one of the things about these two very large applications is that it's about long-term change, and I think it will be an enormous benefit to the construction, and I think Councillor Compton said housing affordability. I mean, it's really aspirational, long-term thinking rather than little, smaller bits and pieces. But I would just say I would like the officers to come back, preferably towards the end of January, with the information, because I see that I think it's Warren and Marnie hope to start their project on the 2nd of February, and Naila Love wanted to start on the 2nd of March. So if we could have it earlier, not wait for the next scheduled grants meeting. I realise that timeline might be a little bit difficult for you, and I am, underneath it all, I am a human being. I understand about holidays and things. So just as soon as we could have it, as soon as possible, a special meeting just to hear the information and decide what to do with the two grants. So now, right of reply.
Kia ora, councillors, and I realise that this is, not the, in our new grants committee, there is no normal yet, but this has caused us to have a bit of discussion. I must say, at that's why I really want us to get across the criteria together, because it was a little bit of a surprise for me when some of these applications turned up. But I really do want to know a little bit more about what they will deliver, and I think that's good for all of us to have that. So I really appreciate your support, but then I think to have that healthy conversation on the criteria will set us in good stead for the next 3 years. So thank you all for your patience. Thank you to all the amazing organisations in Wellington for the innovation that you are doing, and to officers for the work today. Thank you.
So I will now put the motion, which has been moved and carried. Those in favour press 1, those not in favour, well, you know, and a division. You happy for it to be taken as a whole? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're doing the amendment first. Okay, so this is we're doing the amendment first. Okay, that's passed unanimously. Then we'll go back to the substantive, which now incorporates the amendment, doesn't it? Yes. All those in favour vote 1.
Any further debate on the substantive?
Any further debate on the substantive? Oh, right of reply. Who? No, he doesn't get right.
No.
Right of reply.
I just very, very quickly wanted to thank all the applicants. All the applicants who have been approved, declined, or otherwise. I know that would have taken a lot of great deal of work to put in the effort, and I applaud that. And look, well, let's look at the bigger picture. Waste minimalisation is a really important goal. So, kudos to all.
Thank you. Okay, you're allowed to vote now. Oh. Report. Arts and Culture Fund. I'd like to introduce Stephen Blackburn on the report. And Stephen, it's great to see you at so many events around the city. It's really good. Wow.
Kia ora koutou, ko Stephen Blackburn, Taku Ingoa, Manager City Events, Creative Capital, with apologies from my colleague Catherine Graham, who's stuck in Auckland, so won't be attending today. She's the Senior Arts Advisor on Funding. The report to the Grants Subcommittee makes recommendations for allocation of the Arts and Culture Fund projects and living wage grants, round 1 for this financial year 25-26. In May 25, Council adopted the new Arts and Culture funding framework, which creates a more transparent funding pathway for organisations and artists. And under that framework, Council approved a number of multi-year and annual Stability Fund grants to arts organisations at the May and September meetings. This is the first round of the new Arts and Culture Project Fund and the new Living Wage grants under this framework. The term project refers to a self-contained activity that is time-bound with an identifiable start and finish date. This might be short-term, a one-off weekend workshop, or long-term, a program of exhibitions across even an 8 to 12-month period. The program or project, however, must be completed within a 12-month period of being funded and deliver to at least one of the Ahutini funding priorities. Funding awarded from the projects round is capped at $10,000 per grant. These funds support innovative arts and culture projects that benefit the people of Wellington and can demonstrate alignment to priorities within the Ahutini Arts Strategy. To be eligible for funding, the applicant's project had to be delivering against at least one of the Ahutini 2030 Arts and Culture Creative Strategy POs. The focus area 1 of Aho Tangata Our people, connected, engaged, inclusive, accessible communities. Our communities are connected by diverse arts and cultural expression. Focus Area 2, Aho Hononga, partnership with mana whenua and Māori. We honour Te Treaty and the Council's partnership with mana whenua in the outcomes delivered. Focus Area 3, Aho Whenua, our places, spaces and venues. Our city is alive with the possibility of art around every corner. And Focus Area 4, Ahu Mahi, pathways for successful arts and creative sector workers and careers. Wellington becomes an incredible place to create, live, learn and work. The recommended allocations for the Arts and Culture Projects Grant Round 1 amounts to $126,617.94, which leaves us a balance of $127,171 for the second project round in 25-26. We're planning 2 rounds in each financial year. Within the recommended project applications that are before you, the genres represented are 6 theatre, 1 dance, 1 visual arts, 3 Ngā Toi Māori, 1 literature, 3 interarts, 5 musical, either classical or contemporary. The living wage grants are to provide additional support that enables artists and practitioners to receive a living wage. To be eligible for the fund, the applicants must apply under one of 3 categories: artists during the development stage of their work, a founder manager who is underpaid for the hours they actually work, which is often the case in the arts, event which does not attract sufficient funding or income to pay a living wage to its artists and crew, a provider with an innovative idea that can assist artists to achieve the living wage on a sustainable basis. The recommended allocations for the Arts and Culture Living Wage Grant in this round amounts to $43,801.35, which leaves us with a balance of $118,291 for the second living wage round in the current financial year. Within the recommended living wage applications, the genres represented are 3 theatre, 1 visual art, 1 circo arts, 2 music contemporary, 1 comedy, 1 Ngā Toi Māori. The applications for funding from the project and living wage rounds were oversubscribed in terms of application. We actually had a total request of $251,912 for the arts and culture round and $99,000 for the $472 for the living wage fund. I think this is reflective of the low level of successful funding also at a national level, with also reduced sponsorship in the arts sector. The recent CNZ round, Creative New Zealand round, was around 9% success rate against ask. All assessment and funding recommendations align with criteria and priority areas for the fund. The criteria and priority areas reflect relevant strategies and were updated, as I mentioned, in May 2025 to deliver on the outcomes of the new framework. Any pātai?
Does anyone have any questions? None of the usual suspects? Okay. So is there a move? Oh yes, I'm going to move it. That's right. And the Mayor would like to second it. So I don't have very much to say about this, except that I think the arts sector in Wellington is fantastic. We are really dependent on the amazing advice we get from the officers, and the fact that I see Stephen regularly at functions. Sometimes he's the only person I know there. That's not quite true, actually. But so I'd just like to thank him for all the work. And you know, the arts are really important in Wellington, and increasingly so as we open up the city beginning next year, centre of the city. So that's what I really want to say. Your Worship. Okay, is there any debate? Great. So right of reply? No right of reply. Let's vote. Councillor Abdurrahman? Councillor Foon? Great. So now community outcomes, and who did I ask to do that? Was that you? No. Oh, here we are. Sorry, I've written it down here. Nuruddin, I think you're going to introduce community outcomes. Oh, but sorry, the officers. So sorry. Sahai Orgad, I'd say Sahai and Mark Farrer, two incredibly experienced and helpful officers. Thank you.
Kia ora, councillors. My name's Mark Farrer. I'm the grants and funding manager. Just to say a few words about this paper, back in March this year, Council approved a new funding framework for the social funding, what used to be called the Social and Recreation Fund. We've detailed in the paper quite a bit of background around the way that this fund's made up, so I'm not going to kind of read through all that. Suffice to say, it's our largest fund and supports some 49 organisations with something like 86% of the funding. You know, so most of our money's tied up in that kind of larger set of relationships with organisations, and there's some sports money in there as well. So you'll be hearing more from us on this fund at the next meeting. And as I went through with the orientation session we ran for councillors, it's going to be quite important that we engage with you around all that work, because there are some big decisions to be made around organisations who we've been funding for a long time at council, but there's obviously new priorities that have been set for the fund. So that's going to be quite important. So I just wanted to mention that. The other decision that was made in the new framework was that officers were given delegation to approve grants under $5,000. So you'll see 13 residents associations in your paper listed there, and a few other organisations that have had funding under $5,000. So we work through that process on a bi-monthly basis, and they're approved by the chair and the business unit manager, and then we report back to you on those in these papers. So you'll see these coming back to you. And I'm going to hand over to Sahai, who's going to introduce the one funding recommendation we've got in this paper.
Thank you, kia ora koutou. Just by way of background, the City Safety Plan, which this funding recommendation comes out of, is was approved earlier this year in March, and the deployments on the ground started from July. That includes the Māori Warden deployment, as I've outlined in the paper itself. This is one part of multiple actions that we have going on in building up the safety ecosystem. So from March, Council endorsed and approved the plan. From July, we started rolling out those initiatives, those action-oriented initiatives to enhance safety, but also importantly, improve visibility of our safety systems on the ground. The Māori Wardens, since they've been in town in July, have occupied the Safety Hub, which is another one of the initiatives in the plan. They operate, as I've said, on a shift that is pretty much every day in a deployment from Māori Wardens from across this region, made up of volunteers with management who essentially deploy and are responsible if somebody can't show up for a shift. We support the Māori Wardens, obviously, not only through the Safety Hub, but also in providing. We've also provided them with the radio connections to our CCTV hub here at level 7 in Tahiwi, whereby we have that connection with the police directly. So between the Māori Wardens, our CCTV office, and our urban liaison team and the beat team, we have that that rolling kind of coverage in the CBD. I'm going to stop there so that I can take some questions. It was my intention to try to do a briefing to councillors before the end of the year of how things were going after I provided that briefing back in September. With time being very short, that hasn't happened, but I hope to be able to do that in the new year, certainly by March, when we aim to bring to you another iteration of the City Safety Plan as we had committed last year, to let you know what we've learnt, what we think has been making an impact to date with our services and our initiatives, and how we intend to implement initiatives further.
So does anyone have any brief questions? Councillor Abdurrahman.
Thank you, Sahai, I think, for the good thing that you're doing and your team is doing as well. We do have an ethnic warden as well, and has been working in this space for more than 10 years, and they've been a bit not active after COVID, but now they are
very
active
working
in that space.
Yep.
is there any funding allocation for them, and what torches out there when
Certainly.
it comes to...
Yep. The ethnic patrollers and the Pacifica patrollers are also a big part of our city safety plan. And you'll remember last year we recommended a new approved funding for investment in them as well. We will be looking at how we extend that funding in the next round of the city safety plan to enhance their rotations. They work every fortnight in rotation over the weekends with the Pacifica patrollers out of the safety hub as well. So they're in a coordinated work plan as well from that perspective, and we'll be looking at that funding allocation next year.
Thank you.
No worries.
Councillor Chung.
Great, thanks very much. I'm not asking for a report, and I know what you mentioned about bringing one up next year, but has there been any noticeable change in behaviour since the patrol started?
Has there been a noticeable change? We have noticed through our coverage, obviously, we have more reporting. So we know more information about the kinds of behaviours they're seeing and what's behind them. That's led us to having some really constructive conversations with different agencies and our strategic partners like the police, MSD, also the Kaunihera, and so that strengthened our partnerships to be able to then quite deliberately and strategically go and respond differently. In terms of the shifts in behaviour, is that what you're asking, or whether we have built a variety of different relationships with the sector, as well as people who are rough sleeping or are vulnerable on our streets, and that's noticeable in the way that you've experienced or people have experienced our CBD, and that's what I can say about that right now. We will hopefully be able to give you some further data around what we're seeing and what we're doing and our responses to what we're seeing, coupled with the data and information from our CCTV reports and what we respond to alongside the police.
Yep, great, thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Compton.
Thank you, Chair. So outside of the CBD, in the burbs, we're noticing significant increase in safety concerns from our residents. And I'm just curious, can the bids apply for the Community Outcomes Fund as more of a preventative measure as opposed to bottom of the cliff type of stuff? Thanks.
The bids are funded through that targeted rate, aren't they? So I think we probably need to get some advice. I mean, they are legal entities in themselves. So I suppose like the debate earlier around the types of organisations that apply, I think we probably need to come back to you with some advice on that, really.
Councillor Calvert.
Yes, just a comment following that. But isn't the targeted rate that the bids pay is just only targeted in respect of it goes back into, they pay it, but it goes back into managing the bid. So it's not like it's giving it to the council, it's handing it to the council, but it's not related to any of that grant stuff. Yes.
Councillor, I think we'll come back with advice on that one for you separately. Thank you.
If I may just say something about the suburbs, though. And I think I've put this in the advice in the Q&As as well as the advice that we put around Newtown. What's helped the city safety plan is that really deliberate planning and engagement at the beginning. We built from the Pōneke promise. We engaged and created some really key partnerships there to help fuel a plan that has informed and and continues to inform our strategies on the ground. If we want to extend that further, we're going to need to do the same groundwork, including and engaging very meaningfully and deeply with the bids themselves. So it's not something that we can just clip on to a suburb. It's something that needs to be really well planned and delivered.
Are we on to moving? To this? So, Councillor Abdurrahman, would you like to move the paper, please?
Kia ora whanau. It's my pleasure to move this paper. This is where a lot of our communities do their funding application, where they get it. But it's also an area where the more established organizations have been there for a long time. They know how to navigate the system. They have actually, some of them, they do really good job, but at the same time, financially in a very good position. And we need to look at it, how we fund, who we fund, and when. And those are the kind of discussion we need to have. We just have to have next year, I think, with the funding team, the grant scheme, Mark's team, basically. So I think it's also the sports partnership funding. The last few years, this sport funding has been going from one to another. Whoever council can make their number around the council table, managing to say, oh, I'm going to give it to this organization, taking from here, and then another one will come. I'm going to take it to this organization. Has been happening, and we either need to review that one, say we don't have any funding for sport partnership funding, or just dedicate it for what it has meant to be used for. And I think that is the kind of clarity I'll be expecting next year when we review those funding areas. And the second one, yes, which you already mentioned at the first one as well, organization who've been there getting funding year after year, but they are in a very capable kind of position to do some of the funding that we just keep funding them. And there are small organizations coming through, and Mark his team having really difficulties in supporting them. Why? The funding is already locked in for those who are already established. Our city is changing in a good way. It's becoming more diverse. The organizations that's coming up, the community that is coming up, and needs to be supported. The young people that is coming and trying to navigate the funding, they need to be supported. Currently, it is very difficult to do that. While we sustain and support those who've been doing a great job, we also move into the new era of what our community currently looks like, and the funding should be reflecting that. I think allocation of resources should reflect who we're serving, who is our community. I think it should be reflective of that. Thank you.
Councillor Compton, would you like to second the paper?
Absolutely, I'll second the paper.
Is there any debate? Councillor Osborne, followed by Councillor Chung. A brief debate.
I just wanted to quickly give a quick shout out to the Strathmore Residents Association, who run such a tight ship they didn't require the full $1,000 of all the other residents associations.
Thank you. Councillor Chung.
I agree with Councillor Pureman, because I recall in the last council we had situations where one organisation that's been going for a long, long time was short of money, and so the previous council decided that, we wanted to top that up, and so we took the money out of the Sportsville Fund to actually put it into that organisation. Now, I disagreed with that at that time, and I still think that this is actually wrong, and so when we take money out of a certain fund, out of a particular fund for a use that it was not intended for, then we don't think about the implications of where we're taking the fund from. So when you start to talk about sports and what sports teams needed and the assistance that we give them, they're short now that we've actually approved to take that fund out. So I think that I would like to see more rigid adherence to the budgets, and maybe to either look very carefully at whether we poach from one fund to give to another, or we set a criteria that doesn't allow this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chung. So, right of reply? Oh, no, what's next? Yes. Anyone else got anything they want to say? No, so Councillor Abdurrahman, right of reply?
No, good, thank you.
Okay, I'll now put the motion. 1 yes, 2 no. We've had unanimous votes the whole way through, just a few stress points every now and again. So the decision register. So I'll take the report as read. Officer James Roberts, is there anything you'd like to say?
Nothing else, Chair. I'll take it as read. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything they want to, any questions before we move into debate? Frequent flyer, Councillor Foon. Oh, I apologise. She's right. So, no questions. Okay. So, do we have a mover? I've done nothing about that. Councillor. Thank you. Councillor. Oh, great. Right. Let's vote. I know, and then I've got sort of latent safeguard.
That carried.
Oh, that's carried unanimously again. what a role model we are. Take a moment to pause the live stream while we go back to the council meeting and allow the mayor to resume.
Reports. We'll take this report as read. Are there any questions about it? No. Okay, I'll move the motion. Is there a second? Councillor Al-Rubai. I have no comments. Do you want to make any comment? No. Any questions about it? Any other contributions? Debating on it? You sure? It's the last opportunity before Christmas. Okay, I'll put the motion. Sorry?
Well, if you'd said.
Cast there, hallelujah. Councillor Chung, is your button working? Okay. Thank you. Declare that motion carried. We now have committee reports. Report of Te Taurapa Council Planning and Finance Committee. I'll invite the chair to move the motion and speak if she wishes.
Yes, look, this was met with full unanimous approval yesterday. There were no concerns expressed, so I'm hoping at council this will proceed through, and I ask everyone for their support.
Is there a seconder for motion? Yes, Councillor O'Brien. Do you wish to speak, Councillor O'Brien? Okay. Any other debate? Councillor Abdurrahman.
Since this is our last chance, as you said, Mayor, before the Christmas, I just want to say that how appreciative I am for this council and how refreshing it is for our community to see the way we're working together. It is also really interesting for a lot of people who might not know Andrew, who's funny. The mayor is just, they can crack sometimes a fun jokes. And the interesting part for me is just how he engaged in the community and how he engaged around this table as well. And for all the councillors, how you're working together and supporting officers in making the decision, and brave enough to make some decision, to even to do revoking some decision when we have to make it in the right way, and sometimes also tolerating when revoking some of you and not happy even with the decision itself. And in moving forward as well, I'm looking forward for next year where we'll be doing a lot of great jobs, and especially around the tri-name plan, and looking forward for that to come to play. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abdulrahman. Is there any other contributions to the Councillor Al-Rubai?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight something coming into this council. It is an absolute privilege, and I come from the perspective that, you know, I come from a place in the world where sometimes democracy is taken for granted, but to see that reflected so much in a healthy way around this table, it brings a lot of hope, and it brings a lot of positivity to the community as we reflect that in the decision making that we take and in our process. So upholding that democracy means the world to me, and it means the world to everybody else. can guarantee that. So I'm just encouraging that to continue moving forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alroba. Anybody else wish to take advantage of the Christmas opportunity to speak? No? All right. So I will... Oh, any right of reply, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Calvert? No. Okay, we'll put the motion. Hello, we've denied some councillors. It's the size of the screen, all right. We've got to declare that motion carried. I'm assuming that there are two names that didn't appear on screen. Right? All right, we now move to a public excluded section. The reason for the public excluded is it deals with personal information, and we need to do that to protect the privacy of them. So I'll move the motion. Is there a seconder? We're coming back out of it, yeah. Deputy Mayor Nolte, any debate on this? No, I'll put the motion. Yep, that motion is carried. Right, who is... All right, we are ready now. So we've done that one there. Right, so that brings us to the end of everything on the agenda. We're now back here. So I just want to conclude by saying a few words. First of all, I do just want to acknowledge the events at Bondi on Sunday evening in Australia, because it didn't just have a massive impact for the Jewish community in Australia and Australians, but it had an impact on the Jewish community around the world and here in Wellington as well. And some of us attended the Hanukkah event at Parliament on Tuesday evening, and I know how important it was for the council and many other community and national leaders to be represented there, to stand with our Jewish community at a time when solidarity was important. And I just want to take a moment just to acknowledge those who lost their lives in that terrible event, and to acknowledge too that we see acts of terrorism, acts of threats to life around the world, wherever they are. It is an abominable situation for communities to be, for any community to feel that they are unwelcome or under threat. And we must do our bit to stand up and speak out for a city that cherishes its diversity. We must always stand against that type of intimidation and threat and harassment, and those things that make people feel unwelcome. Just turning to, I was going to say summarising the year. Well, it was summarising 2 months, I suppose. Look, it's been a big year for all of us. All of us have made the decision earlier in the year to put ourselves up for public office, or to put ourselves up for public office again. There were many of our fellow residents in Wellington and one in Auckland who also put themselves up for public office in Wellington. And we went through the democratic process, which Councillor Al-Rubai reminded us is something that not every person in the world gets to participate in or to observe. We did that, and we had that here. And as a consequence of that, we have this well-formed, some would say perfectly formed council representing the variety of views and perspectives of the people of Wellington. So it's an extraordinary privilege for me to be mayor, to be chairing this group, you, my colleagues. I think it's been a good 2 months. We are getting to know each other and getting to learn how to work with each other. Some of us getting to ropes with the processes and the technology. That will only ever get better, he said optimistically. But I feel that we end the year having got to this point after some challenging times, but I think we end the year justified in having a sense of optimism for 2026 and indeed beyond. And much of what gives me optimism about 2026 also just not the fact that we're here, but a set of decisions that we have inherited from the last council and from councils before that, with big projects coming to fruition. We will still have challenges, there's no question about that, and they are challenges about our own funding and financing, and the eternal need and demand and indeed obligation for us to be the builders of the city of the future, and to be the council that thinks not just of today's generations but future generations too, and those things that are the constant balance we must achieve, and that's the challenge, the practical challenge, the intellectual challenge that we are faced with, and that it is our duty to discharge. So on that note, I thank you all. I wish you all the very best for Christmas and for the holiday season, for you to celebrate with family, friends, whānau, your loved ones, the people who are important and special to you. Have a break, because I am definitely going to have one, and I look forward to getting back into it all again next year and working well with all of you. Thank you very much. On that note, I think we will conclude the meeting with our karakia mutanga, and adjourn. Unuhia, 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 ki te uru tapunui, kia wātia, kia māmā, te ngākau te tinana, te wairua, i te ara takatū, koia rā e rongo, whakairia a ki rikona, kia wātia, ai rā kua wātia.